Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar and the last episode of the BigQuery Survival Guide. Just a couple housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. Don't use the chat function, use the Q&A, and we'll make sure that Sathya and I address your questions live. And if there's a ton of questions at the end, we'll make sure to address them via email as well, but we promise to make sure that we follow up on these questions as well. Any comments, any interactions are fully welcome via the chat or the Q&A as well. This session is going to be recorded. It's going to be available, and you'll also have access to the slide deck, not only of today, but the 3 sessions that we've done this week. Now, let's get to it. For those who are maybe joining us for the first time in this session, my name is Andy Fernandez. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing here at HYCU, and I'm joined by Sathya Sankaran, who's the Head of Cloud Products at HYCU as well. This series that we've done this week is something new, something I really enjoyed, and it's actually more of a workshop. I'm going through every stage of the data engineer and the IT manager's journey in protecting BigQuery. Where we started, and if you're interested in going back and watching these episodes, is we did a very thorough analysis of the shared responsibility model within Google Cloud and what that actually means for you as a user. If something is deleted, whose responsibility is it? If there's a high availability requirement, whose responsibility is it? We delineate all of these specific requirements. We then go through, and Sathya provides real life examples of how data loss scenarios can actually happen in BigQuery, and not always in ways that you think. From there, we take a look and did an analysis on all of the native recovery tooling, time travel, fail-safe, so many other options that Google provides on how to make sure that you can restore data, especially from an operational recovery perspective. We also provided a full checklist around backup, management, and recovery that you'll need in your organization to make sure that your data is not only protected, but it's compliant, and most importantly, that it's recoverable. But for today's last session, and our last focus is going to be a live demo and a free trial to Google BigQuery backup and recovery as well. We're going to break down a couple components. Sathya is going to run you through exactly a day in the life. But just a couple of things, especially from our last session. If you're really interested in a breakdown, you can go and watch the recording. But Sathya, just for those who are joining us for the first time, what are some of the use cases and scenarios to think through where you might think, well, maybe the native tooling, I need to complement it with a third-party backup. Let's talk through some of those use cases.
Yeah, I would say primarily anything that requires isolation. We talked about yesterday, right? So think compliance where you have to think about isolation, right? If all your backup copies and all your snapshot copies are sitting in the same project, are you providing the adequate amount of isolation? If someone does get access to your project, does that make these problems compounded, right? So that's your first thing to really think through. Are you providing enough isolation? And are you providing tamper proofing, right? Even if wherever you keep your backups, are you providing tamper proofing so that your backups aren't getting compromised? And in terms of recoveries, think about anything that you don't immediately detect. Any failures that you can't immediately detect. If you can immediately detect, of course, use time travel. It is awesome technology, and you do have that cushion and luxury of kind of going back to any point in time within the last 7 days, right? But think about all the scenarios where you may not be able to detect something within the last 7 days. It could be organic record expiration, organic partition expiration, or it could be someone deleted something, but you didn't know until you ran your trending or reporting, once a month, once a quarter, once a year, whatever frequency that you run this in. So those are the main key areas to think through, and where backups really are your primary and only insurance policy, and happy to walk you through that today.
Perfect. And I think Sathya's here too. The slogan of this week, if you require compliance, consistency, and completeness from a data protection perspective, it's time to think about a third-party backup vendor as well. But with that being said, the reason that we're here for today is to actually go through and show you how HYCU is able to support you in this way. For those who maybe are thinking, well, how do I pronounce that? What is it? What kind of company are they? We're the fastest growing data protection company in the world. And our mission is very clear: to build a safer world through universal protection of data. You may think, what does universal protection of data mean? Well, think about BigQuery. Think about the services that you're running. That is now a cloud service. That is now a database as a service, warehouse as a service that you're running within the public cloud. 10, 15 years ago to accomplish these use cases, assuming you could and had the infrastructure to do so, it was on-prem. And now, just like BigQuery and all of your other Google services and all of your other connectors, they exist elsewhere. And HYCU's focus is to make sure that no matter where your data is, that you have universal protection of your data. And you can see that in our coverage. We have over 86 workloads, many workloads within Google Cloud as well, that are fully protected from your on-prem environment to your cloud native services and even SaaS applications and connectors as well. And for those who are thinking, well, I want to make sure that the backup vendor that I work with and that I trust to recover my data has industry recognition as somebody that's well known in the industry. Something that we're extremely proud of at HYCU is that we have the #1 net promoter score in data protection. This is a customer obsession of ours to make sure that we deliver the best possible customer experience. And amongst all backups and data protection companies, HYCU ranks #1. In context of Google, we were also the Google Cloud Technology Partner of the Year in 2024, and of course are recognized by Gartner. These are some of the agencies and organizations that trust HYCU. But with that being said, let's get to the reason why we're actually here. And what Sathya is going to do is actually going to walk through our cloud and what that experience would be like for you. But most importantly, what does the recovery look like and a day in the life for somebody trying to make sure that BigQuery is recoverable? Sathya, take us through.
Yeah, and thanks, Andy, for that brilliant introduction. So the first thing to really talk about HYCU or cloud and make sure people understand that this is a SaaS service. This is a SaaS service with the perfect blend of offering you the management and orchestration in our tenants, so you don't have to maintain a whole bunch of infrastructure, but at the same time gives you full control of your backup. So your backups and your backup copies always stay in your tenant, right? And because it's a SaaS service, getting started with our cloud is, as easy a task as something you complete before your first coffee break in the morning, right? It's not a project, it's a task. And you can complete it within a matter of minutes. And really all you do is get a login for our SaaS portal. You sign in with your credentials. And once you sign in with your credentials, you can essentially start exploring all the workloads that you could protect and run them directly from our console, right? A good place that I normally start my orientation to our product is the marketplace, because there are, again, so many services that we protect today. This gives you the breadth and depth of all the solutions that we cover. And today we're here to talk about BigQuery. So let's look through what Google Cloud services that we protect, right? So you go to our marketplace here, you filter down to the platforms that you are interested in, and you can see all the things that we support in Google Cloud. And as Andy mentioned, we provide support for a very large number of services in Google Cloud. I think more than any other option out there in the marketplace. And that gives the majority of your database services as well. So it's not just BigQuery, it's also LIDB, it's also Firestore, it's also Cloud SQL. And so all of these database services that you rely on can actually be protected with our solution. And how you get started is actually very, very simple. Let's say you got BigQuery, you select it, you read what we do about it, hit configure, and you can essentially configure your BigQuery datasets, answer a bunch of questions, tell us what account to use, and configure that account with the right permissions, and you can actually get started in no time. Once that's done, you go to our SaaS tab here, and you'll see all the services we protect, right? And all the services you've added. If I want to just look at my BigQuery datasets, I simply apply a filter and I see all my BigQuery datasets in one place. And from here onwards, you'd be able to go ahead and apply your backup policies and so on. And let's talk about backup policies, right? Because backup policies, as we talked about, allows you to deliver compliance, especially in terms of retention and separation and tamper proofing, right? So 3 things that we talked about. So and this policy will allow you to say what frequency you want to back it up in, where do you want to store that data, and you can store those data in warm buckets, And you can also choose to archive those copies into a cold line storage, or even an alternate cloud provider, whatever you want those to be, you could specify. And all of that, again, you specify through policies. And then you would go ahead and apply those policies to these SaaS workloads. So I would select something here, set policy, choose a policy. I've got a BigQuery policy. I can simply assign and run backups going forward, right? So that's as simple as that. We also talked about consistency. So compliance, we talked about retention, we talked about being able to move to an alternate region, which is available through those policy selection. You can also set up archiving to go to a different cold line storage. Now we talk about consistency. How do we accomplish that? And you could see there are a couple of workloads here with a very different naming convention than the rest of them. And what these are what we call atomic backup sets. An atomic backup set is nothing but a grouping of data sets that you already have and tagged with a certain name. In this case, atomic backup is the name of the tag. And those data sets are grouped together. So whenever you perform a backup of this group, it actually backs up all of the data sets inside that particular backup set so that the backups are backed up at the same point in time. So imagine, and this is a request from one of our largest BigQuery clients, and they have about 200 data sets. And they wanted a lot of interdependencies between these data sets. And they didn't want to be in the business of trying to figure out which data sets mapping to which and so on. So they really wanted the ability to say, here is my estate, go protect it, but deliver a consistent point in time snapshot across all of these and take a backup from there, right? And that's what this really allows you to do. How do you do this? Here is your BigQuery datasets. And by the way, for all BigQuery aficionados on the call, BigQuery just announced dark mode. I just got this a couple of days ago, and looks brilliant. Thank you, BigQuery. So we got the dark mode here, and you can see that I've got a bunch of data sets, right? So if I tag some of these data sets with a HYCU group, it essentially starts grouping those data sets together. And that's when you deliver consistent snapshots, consistent point in time snapshots across these data sets. It's really as simple as just go in here, select a label, and then you can essentially group them together. And by the way, this labels actually help you in terms of HYCU policy selection as well. You can have policies that are mapped to specific labels, and then so they don't have to be part of atomic backups. They can basically be any policy that is set with HYCU a hyphen policy and set to a value of prod. You can have a prod policy that automatically picks up all of these BigQuery data sets in one. So it really gets set and forget type automation workflows for you. So we've done that, and then it really just go ahead and hit back up, and these data sets get backed up, and you can see I've got consistently good backups of these data sets for a long period of time at this point, right? So the policy automatically runs. You don't have to keep going there and running backups. You really once you set a policy, give it a window for your backup. The product makes sure that you are going to be compliant at all times. Okay. And if you're not compliant, we will also warn you. And certainly if there are again data sets here, this is a data set I restored just for this demo purpose. And you can see I've not assigned a backup policy to it. And so you're not seeing compliance. And so you get to see that directly right here, right? So let's talk restore. So restore is as simple as, let me go here, and this is a data set. Let's say I want to go ahead and restore. I go here, restore SaaS, and I would have the option to select restore a data set or restore a table, right? When you do this, it's going to go ahead and actually find what data sets you have and allow you to do restores. So this is a restore data set. I selected restore table there. Let me kind of show you what options exist for restore data sets. So I'll walk you through 3 restore scenarios today. One, you're trying to restore an entire data set. And with that data set, you're going to want to restore your models, your routines, your views, all of that thing that gets captured within this data set. So everything that, not just your base table, but everything on top of those base tables as well, right? You can essentially select this data set and choose to do a restore to an alternate project, for example, right? So I've got multiple projects here. I could say, hey, go take this backup, restore to a different project, and assign a suffix so I know that I'm going to get data sets with this particular suffix. So I know this data set is something that we restored. You can leave it blank so that you get the same name as well, right? So it's really as simple as that, and you hit restore, and the restore goes ahead and runs that thing, right? So I've actually done a restore just before this. I ran a restore of this DS master data. It's actually in a different project. And we ran a restore of that data set to this particular project. And you could see that all of your tables are coming back, your models and routines, all of that comes back as well. So you really do get a solution where it picks up not just the base tables, but everything around it. So talking about completeness, it even ensures your row level security policies that you have configured. A lot of solutions don't support and run away from RLS policies. We actually discover it, we protect it. So when we bring back data set, those security policies are intact. So someone that is not authorized to see that data set is not getting even accidental access to it, right? So that's something that we deliver. And you also have the ability to restore at a table level, right? So I don't have to restore the entire data set. I may have a data set with 200 tables, 300 tables, right? I just want to restore something specific. You certainly can go in and select a particular table and choose where to send that restore to. And you'd be able to either go back to the original or send it to a new data set and essentially get that setup delivered. So yesterday, I ran this restore to demo day and gave it a demo day. So you can actually see that I've got a demo day data set here, and I've got everything. I actually restored. I'll give you the example of what I had done, right? So I restored customer test. So the customer test data came back here. And then I restored one table, country codes, from customer test to this particular restore data set, just the country codes. And you can see all of them kind of pieced together in this data set. And again, performing this restore is really a whole bunch of point and clicks. And once you select those options, you don't need runbooks. You don't need, we talked about documentation being key, but documentation is always going to get stale over a period of time, which is why I think an interface plays an important role. So you certainly need to have documentation, but you need to get backed up with an interface that makes things really, really easy for you, right? So, and all these restores I just walked you through, they are all they're all you can monitor them. So you can actually see all the different data stores that got kicked off, and you could see how these data stores, how they completed with these data sets, right? So you can see all of these. You can see a task report. So you get a report where you can actually monitor what's going on in the backend. There's one more thing I wanted to quickly touch upon before we wrap up the demo, and unless there are any questions, is let's talk some speeds and feeds, right? We have customers that are backing up at the rate of almost 5 terabytes a minute with BigQuery, right? As you know, BigQuery does require the first hop to be a GCS bucket in region, and they've got a petabit network between the BigQuery engine and the GCS engine. So the kind of speeds that they are able to deliver is phenomenal. And one of HYCU's strengths is we completely retain all of those benefits for a user. So whether it's compression, and we've seen customers get 12:1, 13:1 compression. We know a customer with almost 800 GB of logical data, but actually sitting on barely 800 terabytes of logical data, and barely sitting on 60 terabyte of physical data. And when you back up, when you can retain that compression, you're essentially moving less than 10% of data every day with backups, right? and compare that to very expensive change data capture mechanisms that are out there, whether it relies on streaming to perform incremental, you actually get a better performant backups, highly compressed, barely 10% of your actually logical footprint that gets moved. And HYCU actually retains all of those benefits from BigQuery when we perform those exports and when we do all of these things on top as well. Okay, so again, we go back to the three C's. We have the compliance that can easily be done through our policies, which you can automatically assign based on tags to your workflow data sets. Two, consistency. Really just tag and group your data sets within BigQuery. We will automatically pick them up. And when we back up, we deliver a consistent point in time. And three, completeness. Make sure you're protecting not just base table, but everything that you are creating around those base tables to make that data actually accessible, including access controls. And make sure while you've got all of this covered, you can restore to another project, you can restore to another region, you can restore it granularly. All three things you can deliver from your backup and restore solutions. Again, hopefully you took away that we can deliver all of these things from this demo, and happy to talk to anyone if you have further questions.
Thank you so much, Satya. And something to really stress here is what you're looking at is not a point solution to protect BigQuery, the UI for BigQuery backup. What you're looking at is our cloud, the platform, to not only protect BigQuery, but all the additional ancillary services, independent services in your Google Cloud services, but also all of your connectors as well. This is the single pane of glass. I know that's a cliche thing to say, but here it truly is. Satya, could you go to the marketplace for a second as well? And something to stress here is these connectors are dynamic. They get asked, potentially get added. There are new sources of data that you might want to leverage. Something that we provide at HYCU is not only the ability to continuously protect over 86 workloads, but we know that the market changes. Your data sets change. And one thing that you're able to do as well, Satya, if you can click request application support, is actually request exactly the services and connectors that you would like to also protect at the source level as well. And HYCU will quickly address this via our development platform and allow you to continue protecting your entire data estate. Satya, I have two questions for you.
Yeah.
One question is from John, which targets are available as an alternative to snapshots?
Yeah, technically any S3 storage is available today. And very soon, one of industry's leading data protection storage is something that we will be support, and that will deliver great compression and deduplication. And I'm not sure if you're allowed to say the name or not, but
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So, but an industry leader when it comes to deduplication compression with a protocol that is, unique to them, but delivers excellent savings. But think BigQuery guys in this context, right? Being able to deliver leading dedupe and compression on across backups. Every day you're moving, say 50 terabytes of data sets because you've got a petabyte BigQuery, right? This is highly compressible data sets. So we move only 50 terabytes. Great. But this is also immutable data sets, as people call it, right? Which means it's append only. You can only add new versions of data. You don't really go and change existing versions, which means a large portion of what we back up every day is kind of the same as yesterday. So when you have these targets that deliver deduplication and compression on top of what we do with being able to deliver excellent speeds and feeds with these backups, you get the best of both worlds. And so today it's any S3 compliant storage. Very, very soon an announcement will be made that we will enable that with the leading data protection storage that is out there.
Thank you, Satya. There's one more question, actually. Is there any transactional impact to BigQuery databases during backups or during restores?
Yeah, look, this is, I mean, BigQuery is one of those where I mean, they really do have it completely distributed to a point. The worker nodes that are actually dealing with your SQL queries are unlikely the worker nodes that are dealing with your export itself, right? They've got over 5,000 worker nodes that are sitting there in BigQuery, kind of distributing these workloads. So the reason BigQuery is able to deliver this kind of performance is because they can take your data set and they're like ants, right? They could kind of split it into lots and lots of small pieces, and these workers can move these individual small pieces and get the job done very, very quickly. So that architecture is very conducive to being able to do a lot of things without creating impact. So don't think like traditional databases. It's totally not what we see in BigQuery. The ability to perform a lot of tasks in a very distributed manner really takes away these performance impact, and performance itself is a problem in general.
Thank you, Satya, and thank you, John, for the excellent questions. Anybody else who has questions for us, please leverage the Q&A. And if at the end of the webinar they're not answered, we will make sure to email you with that. For those who are looking for more information, I think what you saw was a true enterprise-ready solution for BigQuery backup and all of the connecting infrastructure and ecosystem as well. But if you want to learn a little bit more or share with your peers, please scan this QR code with the data sheet covering exactly what Satya has discussed. But more importantly, we ask you to try it and give it a shot and understand exactly how HYCU can help you today and complement the native tooling that you're using, but really give you the 3 C's, if I can remember them correctly, Satya: completeness, consistency, and conciseness. I got 2 of them correct, didn't I?
Compliance.
And compliance.
Compliance, completeness, and consistency. Yeah.
Perfect. The 3 C's, if that's anything that we remember. But folks, we want to thank you all for your time. This is the conclusion of the workshop. For those who are joined us for just the 3rd episode, you have 2 others available to you to really understand the requirements, understanding the use case and the scenarios where you have to think about a third-party backup solution, and especially what kind of data loss scenarios you might want to watch out for in your organization as well. With that, Satya, thank you so much for your time. And for those who are attending with us today live, thank you so much, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Eddie. Thanks, everyone.